Sitting down here by the river in Newport, Oregon. I love these little boats down here. I want to talk about something I was studying and researching lately. I was kind of curious about all the main religions, since the beginning of the world. Now, scientists will tell you religions, the earth is, billions of years old. Someday they'll say they found out some new information and it's trillions of years old, blah, blah, blah. So every religion that I could look up was no older than 3,000 years before Jesus Christ. If the earth, if man has been here for millions of years, wouldn't there be records of religion starting before 3,000 years before Jesus Christ? But that's not actually, I'm not here to talk about a timeline. I'm here to talk about the actual religions, and I think this will really help people out a lot. And this information will give you confidence on why you are a Christian. Why am I a Christian? Why do I study Christianity? Christianity is not a religion. There's no religion attached to Jesus Christ. That's why when I go to a Christian church, I go to a non-denominational Christian church that preaches the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the book of Revelation. And a church that has a good buffet. No, I'm just joking. Then you go to the Church of Las Vegas if you just want to go to the buffet all the time. Okay, that was a great sermon. Let's hit the buffet. So, 2,000 up to, they think, 3,000 years before Jesus, the cross, there was a religion. Then there was one 2,000 years before. And there was really, now I'm only talking in general terms. Do you know there was really no religions before that? There was only 2 or maybe 3 main religions before Jesus Christ in the whole world. Now think about it. People back then, because I'm under the belief system that the earth is about 6,000 years old, and the 7,000 year is the millennial reign of Christ, the 7th day, the 7,000 years. But the Jews will tell you that the earth is only about 6,000 years old. Look it up. How old do the Jews say the earth is? It's only about 6,000 years old. So, and it's only been 2,000 years since Jesus. And then the rapture, then the 1,000-year reign would make 7,000 years. So, 2 up to 3,000 years before Jesus, there were like 2 main religions. And they both come out of like India and Far Eastern Asia. Hindi. So these are religions that believe, now here we go, this is the part you want to learn and get confidence about. These 2 main religions before Christ, their basic belief system is praying and chanting on the ground, and works. Number 1, praying and chanting, and number 2 is works. Praying, chanting, and works. They believe the more you pray, the closer to God you will get. And the more good works you have, the closer to God you will become, and the better you will be off in heaven or the next life, or in your next reincarnated life. That's what these two main religions for like up to 3,000 years, 2,000 years before Christ. Now, then you come to Christianity, Christ, and that started right when, obviously, Jesus died on the cross. Just like that, boom. So you see, there really were only two false religions. Okay, now what does the Bible teach us clearly, very clearly? Jesus says, when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites. This is a very important point. When you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, chanting, going on and on and on, saying repetitive prayers over and over and over and over. For your Father in heaven knows what you already need. Your Father in heaven knows what you need before you ask, it says. Jesus says, say your prayers in confidence and faith and leave it alone. Let God do everything else. What's the other thing the Bible teaches? There's no way you can get to heaven through good works. And what do these two main religions teach? The more good works you do, the better off you'll be. Okay, so then we come up to Christ. It's, day 0, day 1. Like 1 minute AD, after the death of Christ. BC is before Christ, AD is after the death of Christ. So, and then Christianity starts, and you know that the devil then came in and is going to imitate what God did through man and come up with a false religion immediately, because he sees, at first the devil tried to have all the Christians killed. So if he could just have them all wiped out and killed, then you don't have to do anything. Because if every single Christian was killed, then the word of God would not go forward. When you're preaching the word of God to someone or just gently telling them about Jesus, you are fulfilling the oldest prophecy about Jesus possible. Okay, so then the devil came up with a religion like 80 years right after Christianity, and it was, I'm not making this up, you can look it up. It was called the Roman Catholic Church Catechism. That's when the Roman Catholic Church began, about 1900 years ago. Wow. That's almost creepy. And I was born and raised a Catholic up until I was like 20 years old. But when I was like 12 years old, I really stopped believing in most of what they said. So then you go from there. In order to get a worldwide religion, you have to go all the way, like 1,400 years later, to Muhammad, Muslimism. You have to go all the way 1,400 years later to Muslims. You'd be surprised. Look up Irish history and the Catholics and how abusive the Catholic Church was for 1,400 years on the earth. We always hear about how America's trying to rule the world, or China's trying to rule the world, or the British war fleets ruled over 50% of the world. No. The Catholics, the Catholic Church ruled the entire world for like 1,400 years. People just don't know because they don't look up anything except themselves today, or entertainment. So now I'm only giving you the main religions. There are obviously like 100,000 religions, but that's because like Catholics have shot off. Oh, by the way, the Catholic Church, so Baptist, believe it or not, Baptist Church is like over 800 years old. Because it might only be 500 or 600 years old, because the Baptists started getting angry at the Catholics. So the Baptists split off into their own, the Baptists came out of catechism, Catholics. That's why it says, don't follow something that's a religion. And then, you see, it all splits off. That's why we have 100,000 religions today. Because, like, there's like 1,000 different types of Catholics. And then you go to Muslimism or Hindu. Hindu has like 80,000 different types of Hinduism. You can just start today and say, I'm a Hindu, but my name is Dave, so I'm the Hindu Davism. You can just start anything you want. If you get followers, you can have anything. Isn't that funny? Online, on YouTube, on trying to make money on social media, the only thing you need to make money is people following you. So aren't you, now I'm getting up to the main point, and this is when you hear this, you're going to say, wow, that's true. I've never thought of that. And it'll change the way you see everything else the rest of your life as a devout Christian, someone who's following Christ. See this guy over here working on his boat? He's sanding that little boat all the way down. So then we come up to today's modern day religions. In like the last 500 years. Now it's funny, if you look, you can clearly see that the devil is picking these main religions at certain times that God did things, in history. So then we come up to Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses. We come all the way up, and they are only about 130 years old. So doesn't that explain to you everything that the Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses believe falsely and are falsely doing? That's funny, because if I was just going to join any religion and there was no Jesus Christ, there were just these man-made religions, I would never join the last two religions that only been here over 100 years. No, I would go back. I would want like the 6,000-year-old religion. But can you see how all of these religions there was only like two of them before Christ on the whole earth? Well, because from the time of the great flood up until Christ was only I was going to say the cross, up until Jesus Christ was only so much time. And these two main religions, and there was no communication, and people were spread out all over the earth. And after Noah's flood, well, it took a few hundred years just to get a great population upon the earth, because it only started out with 8 people after the flood. So can you see how all of these things are false? And then someone comes up and they say, hey, we started a religion called Mormonism. Mormons, and it's the only true church to be a Mormon. It's the only one, and we've been here 130 years, and you have to do everything we say or you can't go to heaven. Now, I say that very carefully. Do you realize how ridiculous that sounds now that you've heard what I said here? So there's been 2 religions, then Christianity, and then right away Catholics. And then later on that burst off into like Baptists, and of course out of Baptists come Methodists, Lutherans, and on and on and on. And here's the main line, and I'm going to tell you something at the end here that's going to blow your mind. Paul said the writing of many books is useless. Too much information is useless because it takes you away from Jesus Christ. But I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you what the last religion is. There's only 2 religions left. And I figured this out a few years ago, but I'm sharing it with you. There's only 2 religions left before the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Now, I hope your ears are wide open right now. In the last days, people will become lovers of themselves and lovers of money. So the very second to last religion is the religion of self, S-E-L-F. And we are living it today, and they are getting followers. And it's the religion of self is currently the world's largest religion. It goes more than all the other religions combined. Let me tell you why. There are 8 billion people on the earth, and there's over 6 billion people on cell phones and on the internet worldwide. There's over 8 billion people on the earth. And there are 6 billion people on the internet looking at stuff about themselves. And now what's it say? That's funny. I got a girl walking behind me, walking her dog. And she's looking at her cell phone. She's walking her dog, but she's not looking at the dog. She's looking at the cell phone. The dog's on a leash. Everything's safe. The dog's safe, but she can't stop looking at her phone. Hey, I'm going to go walk my dog, but I can't go outside without looking at my cell phone. So I wanted to teach you this because it'll change everything you think about the rest of your life. The last religion on earth, and almost 7 billion people belong to this last religion. Selfism. S-E-L-F-I-S-M. Selfism. The religion of self. In the last days, people will become lovers of themselves. Now, that's how we know it's the last days. I've said this many, many times. When everybody starts loving themselves only. You can see it the way people drive. They cut you off, but they don't even know they did it. They tailgate you, but they don't know they're tailgating. They're on their phone. Their phone's talking to them. They don't even turn on the radio. They put their phone up and look at stuff. I'm telling you, it's the religion of self. And the very last religion on earth is going to occur during the 7-year tribulation. You must have the symbol on your hand or your forehead in order to buy or sell, and this is the religion, you must bow down and worship the image of the beast. So the second to last religion, you are probably involved in this religion right now and you don't even know it. The religion of self is the last religion, the devil, because the devil has created every religion on earth except Christianity. I'll tell you an interesting fact, Oh man, this just creeping me out. I just had a thought. Every religion up until 20 years ago, every single religion believes that there's a God, one God, and only one God. Every single main one believes there's one God. It might not be the true God, but they believe there's only one God. Do you know that the religion of self is the only religion that does not involve a God? Because it involves you as your own God. Selfism. So the religion of self never talks about God. Every other religion argues nonstop. They argue who is the real God. The last religion that we're in right now for 20 years Selfism is the last religion that doesn't talk or argue about God at all. It only talks about yourself. The second, or the very last religion, is going to be worshiping the beast during the 7 years of tribulation. That's the very last religion, worshiping the image of the beast. Now, the Christians won't be here. We will be raptured with Jesus. There will be people dying in the name of Jesus. But the last religion is during the 7-year tribulation. And it's a religion of bow down and worship the image of the beast. The second to the last religion before the tribulation, before the rapture, we are all living this religion right now, selfism. And I just wanted to give you a rundown of what does Jesus say? Do you think it's ironic that Jesus would actually say out loud, in order to be saved, you must deny yourself, pick up your cross, and come and follow me? Deny yourself, deny self, pick up your cross and follow me. I'm telling you, this, so much information is being revealed right here before the rapture. It is just astonishingly beautiful. I'm looking at this little white boat out here. It's so pretty. I'm thinking Jesus would live on a boat like that if he was alive today. Now, he had no place to live, obviously. I just wanted to show you that there was only 2 religions up until Christ, worldwide, so to speak. Then there's been only like 4, 5, 6 main religions since Christ. All the other ones have broke off from their own religion. And then the second to the last is selfism. 7 billion people today on earth are living for self. You see it everywhere you go. People are so rude. But once you know it, you say, oh, that's what's happening. We're right at the last days. We're right at the doors about to open. We're going to be raptured. And then the very last religion will be the 7 years, bow down and worship the image of the beast. You cannot deny anything I was saying. Jesus said, deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow me. The Bible says, in the last days, you will become lovers of yourself, lovers of money. And then it goes through all these creepy, foul qualities you're going to possess, like hatred, malice, greed, lust. You see, we are living right now, and this religion's only about 20 years old. It started with the cell phone, the internet. And what do you got to do to get a lot of money online? You have to put up selfies. You have to have a website about yourself. You have to only talk about yourself to make a lot of money online. Or you have to have an OnlyFans, private chat group to where everybody watches you take off your clothes and stuff. That's still all about self. You're taking off your clothes. It's all about self. People paying, $50, $100 like to take off your shirt or whatever. Oh, you're living in a time that is so sinful. You could make $10,000 a month online if you don't have any morals or rules, don't believe in God. It's so easy to bring home $150,000 a year online. But you got to be doing some pretty creepy stuff in a chat room, a private chat room where people give you money. They pay you to do these things. So I just wanted to throw that out there. We are living in the religion of selfism. I want you to recognize that. And when you do, you'll start looking at all the stuff in your house and going, wow, I belong to the religion of selfism. Look at all this stuff I bought and brought home to my house just to make myself feel better. And you will start to understand which is good. It's all good for part of your growing closer to Christ. It's good that you understand you're really living just for yourself, and you're seeing that it's not working, so you surround yourself with items to make yourself feel better. Maybe I'll talk about this some more later, but we are in chapter 18, book of Matthew, we left at verse 15. Dealing with sin in the church. Boy, that's what we're seeing today. Today, it's normal to allow homosexual activity inside the church. Today, it is normal to have lesbian women preaching as ministers in front of the church right on the altar. Today, it's okay to marry gay people in front of God. But considering what I just said, today it's okay if you got a child molester and, he got caught molesting like 50 children, and then he goes to jail for 23 years, and he comes out of prison, and he comes to your church, and you say, oh, no problem, you want to be in charge of the children's ministry? Because you went to jail, so you must be okay now. And people say, oh, well, Dave, you got to pray for him. You can pray for him, yeah. But I wouldn't let him alone with my kids as long as I lived. Oh, well, would you hang out with a bunch of mass murderers? If you knew a guy who murdered like 50 people in a foreign country, would you put him on your friends list? Would you say, well, he's never shot me or anybody I knew. Maybe he's changing. So we're living, dealing with sin in the church. This is the words of Jesus Christ in red letters. Jesus was saying there's great sin in the church, the synagogues, because there were no Christian churches yet. It was just all synagogues, Jewish synagogues. And Jesus is about to point out all the filthy sin they're doing. Now let's see what Jesus says about this sin, and stop looking at what 2023, says, politically correct we should do about this sin. Let's see what Jesus tells us to do about this sin. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault. Now this is going to blow your mind. Just between the two of you. Now Paul talked about this too. If your brother or sister, if anyone sins against you, or not even against you, like I know people look at pornography, they can't stop looking at pornography, they're addicted to pornography, but it's never affected me personally. But it's affecting how my relationship with them as a Christian. Now look, if your brother, and Jesus will say this right here, if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault. Now wait a minute, whoa, that's politically incorrect, Lord. Lord Jesus, you can't do that today, man. That was just a rule for back then, man. No, God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Go and quietly, just between the two of them, point out their sin to them. Now they're not ever going to speak to you again. They're going to hate your guts. I'm not talking about looking for it, but if you see someone who's sinning, like committing adultery or something, and it's a personal friend of yours, now look what Jesus says. You're not going to believe what he tells you to do. You think Jesus is going to say, oh, you should just forgive them and bake them a strawberry pie or something, or a nice vanilla lemon cake. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. See, a wise man will listen to you, but wise men don't usually go around sinning that much. Only fools go around sinning constantly, so a fool's probably not going to listen to you, just to warn you in advance. But if they will not listen, Take one or two others along with you. He's not saying, now go to the church and get a couple elders. Now you have to involve two other people, take them to this person and say, this person is sinning greatly. And they say, okay, well, the three of us will go down there and talk to him, some sense into him. But if they will not listen, take one or two others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of two or three witnesses. Now that should scare you if you're the one sinning, doing the sinning, and the church comes to you. Now, I'm not talking about the Jehovah's Witnesses. They come to my door and they tell me that I'm in a lot of trouble. If I do not become a Jehovah, this was years ago. They don't come anymore. They tell me I'm going to be in a lot of trouble if I do not become a Jehovah's Witness and let them have full control and power over my life. And I said to them once, what kind of trouble? Because, see, I was setting them up. They said, a lot of trouble. I said, but you guys don't believe in hell. They said, well, we don't believe there's a hell. No. I said, so I can do anything I want and never be in trouble. I'm just guaranteed to go to heaven. They said, no, you're not guaranteed. You just cease to exist or whatever. I said, okay, well, then I can rob banks, do anything I want, and I still just won't get in any trouble if I don't get caught. I won't get in any trouble with God. I'll either go to heaven or just won't exist. And they didn't have an answer. They didn't know what to say, so they always say, you should come to the church and talk to some elders who know all about this. And I said to them, is that the church you get to because those elders are brainwashing you? There is a heaven and there is a hell. Jesus Christ makes it very clear. And without believing Jesus Christ was the Son of God, God himself, you will not go to heaven. Jesus will say plainly on the last day, I never knew you. And they always say, thank you for your time, sir. Can we leave some materials with you? Now, when I'm talking to them, I'm not loud like I am now. I'm very calm. I'm very quiet. It's very hard for me to do that, by the way. What does Jesus say? If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault. Just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. But if they will not listen to what you are saying, take one or two others along. Now here's the scary part. So that every matter may be established by the testimony of two or three witnesses. So these other two witnesses are going to make sure you're just not falsely accusing this brother. And also, they're going to somehow spiritually, when three church witnesses show up, they are somehow spiritually recording the sin that the person is doing. And believe me, God is listening. Jesus is going, okay, let's see if they take three witnesses down there. Okay, the man told him, okay, now the three witnesses went down. And this man, my friend or my son Dave still refuses, I'll use myself. My son Dave still refuses to change and admit that he's sinning. So who's going to have to get involved after the three witnesses? Jesus Christ himself. Now, but check out what Jesus says. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. Wow. Now you got to tell the sin to the entire church, or at least to the pastors and all the elders. And if they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. I like the way Paul talks about it. He says, and even after going to the church, So it's you and yourself, number one, the two witnesses, number three, the church are number two, the three witnesses are the church, number three. Let me start over. You and the person, number one. You, the two witnesses, and the person, number two. Number three is you, them, and the church. Number four, Paul says, if they still will not listen, have nothing to do with them. We went through it in one of these Bible studies on this channel. What does Jesus say? Treat them as you would a pagan, a non-believer, or a filthy tax collector, someone who is against you. Truly, I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly, I tell you that if two of you on earth agree about anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where two or three gather in my name, there I am with them. So some people say, okay, if two or three people are together in the name of Christ, he comes down with them. That may or may not be true because of what I'm about to say. If one believer in the name of Christ is doing something, Jesus is with them. I had someone tell me once that Jesus is only seated at the right hand of the Father because the Bible says he's seated at the right hand of the Father, and that he's only seated at the right hand of the Father, and Jesus has no power to leave that seat until the last day. And so when I tell them Jesus is with me all the time, they started a huge argument. I did not argue back. They became greatly offended that Jesus is not with us. Jesus Christ is not with us. He's seated at the right hand of the Father. And I found out later it was because when I said Jesus Christ is with us every minute of every day, it frightened them. It made them afraid. So they became afraid, knowing that they knew what their sins were, and they were afraid Jesus was watching them commit these sins. It frightened them. That's why they wanted to have an argument about it. Jesus said, now I'm not saying you got to go around pointing other sin out to them. No, I wouldn't do that to anybody. But what is he saying? If you have a brother or a sister in your house and you say, I'd like to talk to you privately about this sin you're committing that's affecting everyone, and they say, get out of my business, we're all sinners. And then you take two, and they go to the same church as you, is what I would say. Then go to that church and take two witnesses with you. Because they go to that church. And then if they still won't listen, go and tell the entire church. And the assumption I get is you're telling the entire church and you're literally embarrassing them in front of the entire church. Yeah. I heard a story about a preacher from Texas on the radio. And a man came in and says, I'm the pastor of this church. Oh, he was an evil guy, but he was the pastor of the church. And the replacement pastor was coming in. They were firing this other guy who was so bad. The bad guy walked into his office with a handgun and stuck it in his face and said, if you're here tomorrow, I'm going to blow your brains out. The new minister went home and prayed, Lord, what should I do? What should I do? The guy went back to the church the next day, and the old mean, bastard pastor, he comes out that had the gun. He says, hey, good news, they're transferring me to another church with a promotion. So the new pastor said, oh, okay, well, good for you. And the issue was solved and over with. The guy with the gun left the week later and died on the road in a rest area, never made it to the next church. You see how God took care of that? The new pastor went down there to take over, and he was at that church for over 40 years. And he said, Lord, this man's going to kill me tomorrow. And the Lord said, I'll take care of it. And through the ultimate power of Christ, they said, we're going to transfer the new pastor just to get him to leave town peacefully. Wow. I do believe God told that old mean bastard pastor with the handgun, he tricked him to thinking he's getting something better so he would leave peacefully and not shoot anyone. And while the guy was on the road, he pulled over to a rest area, had a heart attack, and died on the spot. Again, I tell you that if two of you on earth agree about anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where two or three gather in my name, there I am with them. Now I'm going to end this Bible study here. I mostly wanted to concentrate on self-ism, the second to the last religion before bowing down and worshiping the image of the beast-ism religion. You must bow down and worship the image of the beast religion. I saw someone online say, well, that's no big deal. There will be two economies during the tribulation. They said there's no point in following God because during the tribulation, there will be two economies. One will be following the beast, and the other one will just be a cash society. Can you see how that person was greatly being lied to by the devil? Being made to believe that as long as they had some cash on them, they could still go do anything they want. People are not understanding what is about to take place in the next few years in this country. When you hear America talking with China and China, with Russia and Russia with North Korea, forget about it. Just ignore it. Don't worry about it. The rapture's coming, and these people, Jesus said about the rapture, it's going to occur at a time where everything seems like it's completely normal. People will still be going to school, getting married, being given in marriage, having weddings, going to funerals. So if you have a brother or sister that won't listen to you, and you see the sin in the church, get away from them. Jesus was very clear. If you have a pastor or some elders in your church, Jesus Christ, the words coming out of the Son of God's mouth were, treat them as a pagan, have nothing to do with them, get away from them. Treat them as an immoral person like you would. I mean, you see pagans all the time at the grocery store. You're like, hi, how's it going? But you don't go home with them. You see, the devil plays a trick on Christians. You think you see one sinful person. This is what Jehovah's Witnesses do. Jehovah's Witnesses are fools. They go back and forth to the same door over and over and over. It's like Jesus said, let the dead bury their own dead. Let the dead bury their own dead. The Jehovah's Witnesses go back and forth to the same door every month for 20 years, and that person, that pagan living there, will never, ever listen to one single word they say. Why do they do that? Because they believe that their reward is going to be through works, not faith. That's what Mormons believe. The more good works you do, the better off you're going to be in the afterlife. The same with the first two religions before Christ for 3,000 years, 2,000 years before Christ. It was all about good works and sitting down and chanting long, long prayers in the dust, throwing dust in your face. Maybe that's how allergies started. I don't know. Sit around, throw dust and weeds in your face all day while praying, you're probably going to develop an allergy. I'm telling you, all this stuff is true. But you don't listen to what Jesus is saying. The last religion, don't listen to what the world's saying. Listen to what Jesus is saying to you. Have nothing to do with them. Have nothing to do with them. And then we talked about we are living in a religion now, the second to the last religion, or the last religion before the rapture is selfism. I never want you to forget that. Just look around. Don't look at yourself. Look at everybody else for the next 1 or 2 weeks. And just study how they all treat themselves. Just look around and study how people in America are all about self-pleasure because they are in a religion that they don't even know they're in called selfism. They have bought hook, line, and sinker the last religion of selfism.